All right. I love this music, you guys. Welcome, everybody. I see RB dancing in the green room. Welcome, everybody, to the Stone Fruit Roll Up. You are watching the show about building the show that you are watching right now. I am your host, Rebecca Gunter. I am founder and Peach-in-Chief over here at Stone Fruit. We are brand builders and creative types and copywriters who love to come together and work on projects that build beautifully bold and strong brand voices and marketing magic for our entrepreneurial friends and fruitsters. This is the Stone Fruit Roll Up. We are here every Thursday at 12 noon. That's high noon Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and also 5 p.m. in the UK, here on YouTube and also on LinkedIn. Today is a show I've been anticipating for weeks and weeks and weeks because I get to play established content creator with two big dogs in the content creation arena. My friend and colleague Ross Brand, who I've known for at least since 2019, the old DC Podfest days, and my new friend Joie Gharrity, who comes to us also through. I've gotten a chance to get to know her through Project with Ross and have a beautiful opportunity to be on her podcast for a few 15-minute segments of fire. And so if there's anybody in the world I want to talk to about visibility, it is these two folks and how we can scale our reputations beyond working one client at a time with the power of live streaming and digital media. I've also asked my co-host Kat Stewart to come and join us in this conversation, as her perspective is always powerful, and she is the lead lychee here at Stone Fruit. So first I'll share Kathleen to the stage, my estimable co-host. Welcome, Kathleen. Kathleen, tell us a little bit about, as someone who has just recently hung out your rebranded shingle and you've transitioned and pivoted to a new business idea. How are you mitigating, growing, or kind of navigating the waters of building visibility?
Experience like? Well, my business is completely different from what it used to be.
I blame myself.
I don't blame you. I thank you so much. I think it's been kind of difficult in a sense, but easy in a different sense, because after we had our conversation, it made my services very clear, and then it made it very easy to figure out who my competition was, and then who my client avatars were. And from there, it was just like, okay, well, I know that they don't hang out on Facebook, so I don't go on Facebook,
Now that you've done that tough work and you kind of know where they are, let's scale that puppy. Would you like? Let's find out how to do it. I'm cannot wait to bring our two guests out. So Ross Brand, thank you for joining us, bringing you out from the green room, my friend and colleague, and also Joie Gharrity coming in from the 9 a.m. slot there, Pacific Standard Time.
Hey everybody,
welcome to the Stone Fruit Roll Up. Ross, how did you and Joie meet? That's number one I'm curious about.
So we connected when I was hosting for Be Live, I think 2018. We were doing a Be Live around the world for Social Media Day, and Joie was one of the people representing the US, and I interviewed her, and we stayed in touch, and she was like, let's connect and chat offline, and we became friends, had sort of similar approaches about where live streaming is going and how we can make the most of it for our businesses and our brands. And we've been friends ever since.
Yeah, it's so true.
Go ahead, Joie.
Also, too, then Ross invited me to Podfest. And I was like, so it was the 2021, right? 2021 Podfest. And I said yes, and so we met in person.
Yeah.
What's it been like to cultivate a long-term friendship? This is something that's been, that's a long time in the business arena, or something moving as fast as digital media and live streaming. Things happen so quickly. It's easy to just kind of like make a connection, add someone to your LinkedIn network, say, I know that guy, maybe, piggyback on a little bit of camaraderie. But this seems to be a more cultivated trust relationship and partnership. How did you, I don't know, Joey, I guess, how does it feel to have something really deep and sustainable within a community that's moving so fast?
Well, I think in terms of, well, also too, like, I think it's about the generosity of spirit, right? And Ross has this amazing book. I'm going to put up the fourth. I had people sign it at Podfest this year.
Oh my God, we're all holding up our copies, Kathleen. Okay, just green screen. I'm gonna
I'll
send
hold
you
up
one,
the
girl, for
hardback.
sure.
This is the new hardback.
You
version.
always have to. You have to one up us every time. You're showing off now. Surprised you didn't pull that off the shelves of the New York Library.
Yes.
I
think it's in the most popular section up front. Yeah.
Things to know. Things to know. Joey, back to you, of course.
But I do have a quote, and people support those that support them. And I feel like, it's about generosity of spirit. And I feel that in particularly in this arena, the people that have gotten in it early, there's this family dynamics around it, right? Because when you're pioneering things, that people are out there are still like, what? And why are you doing that? And what is that? Right? You have to run with other people that are like-minded and encouraging and supporting each other. Right. And so
in all aspects of life.
In all aspects
we should be doing that.
It's just, I feel that that's the common thread, right? That's a common thread. And I feel like everyone does need that. We all need encouragement and support.
You guys come from really interesting, diverse backgrounds that kind of weave themselves into some commonality. Ross, you come from broadcasting, and Joey, you're a Hollywood girl, right? What's your story from a career journey, and how did that bring you to live streaming, and how does it play so well off Ross's background in broadcasting?
That's for Ross, right?
No, that's for you, girl. What's I'm sorry. I'm like constructing questions like on the fly, but what I'm really curious about is like broadcasting, the Hollywood media machine, which you tell us, I guess, maybe I'd love to know from each of you how you leverage that in live streaming and bring it to your content creation.
Well, I'm in love with media in general, and I found this to be a freedom flag. You don't have to ask permission to build your own influence. For years, I had millions of dollars of influence loaned to me, right? And so when I wanted to break out and do my own thing, I didn't have an ounce of my own influence, and that's a big part of the teachings and trainings that I share out there, because I want everyone to have their own, even if you're at a JOB, have your own influence, right? Don't let people loan it to you. And so
the ultimate sovereignty, sis.
Right? But this to me, this arena, we're the new reality stars. We're the new real stars. Right. And so it was an easy yes for me to jump right in. It's really a big part of my background. And I love spotlighting others. That's why I do interview shows.
Yeah, you sure do. That 15 minutes of fame does a ton for people on your free platform, but then also tell us a little bit about your network as well.
Yeah, so I decided to launch the SWE Media Network, actually coming out of 2023's Podfest in the Uber to the airport.
Why? What was your motivation? Why were you like, I have to solve a problem? What was your aha moment that you decided to do this in an Uber? This is an awesome story.
I'm so inspired. Again, at Podfest, people are very generous with their information. There's no secrets, right? And I learned so much so quickly that I was like, I can do this. However, I wanted to make sure that it was generated towards women, particularly women entrepreneurs, because it can be a little male dominated, and nothing against that. Love the men, right? But I
You always have to have a disclaimer before Ross throws his baseball cap on the desk.
like, I love the men, right? But I just wanted to make sure this time, unlike Hollywood, that we weren't pulling up a seat. Instead, we were owning the table. And that is exactly the reason in Uber, I had this aha, got on the plane, and I was like, but how am I going to do this?
Yeah. How do you actually help people by using the kind of lessons learned there and your absolute commitment to sovereignty and building your own platform?
First of all, a lot of women don't like the technology part of all this. And sometimes I find that men are very drawn to the technology, like the mics and what platform you're on and that kind of thing. And sometimes I found that women, that was kind of intimidating. And so I was like, I'm going to lead first I created a system of teaching women how to use the technology so that they can run their own shows. Right.
You can understand all the technology in the world, though, but if you're afraid to turn on the camera, if you're afraid of failure, if you've got some hang-ups about the way people perceive you, I'm sure you have to do a lot of coaching around just being a kind of a personality.
Yeah. And listen, all of our shows, if we all go back in time and we looked at some of our first shows, we would cringe, right?
Girl,
cringe.
I'll probably cringe a week from now rewatching this one. So you just have to be bad for a while, I think.
I that's what I tell the content creators. I tell them all the time. I said, I want you to fail. Like in my network, you're not allowed to edit. So we have intro and exit bumpers that we're doing in real time because I want it to be authentic. I'm like, I don't care if a plane lands on your home. Like that is not getting edited out. I don't care if dogs are screaming at mailmen and everything else is happening. It's not going to get edited out. And that's the truth. I feel that this arena, there's so much truth behind this arena.
I think that's one thing I really learned from Ross is like go live because it is what it is, and you're not going to spin out in the editing room, and it just kind of forces you to be good. It just forces you to be good. You're just going to bet against the rocks until you figure it out. Ross, tell us a little bit about how broadcasting has led you through a similar inspirational moment. We lost. I don't know what happened. I lost my screen share. Are you still there, Barbie? He's maybe frozen. Joey, let's just go back to you, girl. Cut to Joey in the series. Are you still with me? Kathleen, anybody?
I'm still here. Yeah,
okay.
No, I mean, Ross has an extensive background in broadcasting. And when I heard that, I was like, again, we need to become friends. This is someone I want to know because there is like, you kind of, when you go through those experiences, there's probably only about 1% of the entire globe that has worked in that industries like we have. And so there's a lot of war stories. You can kind of bounce things back and forth, right? Because you know what it's like, right? It's an incredibly competitive industry. However, what I love what Ross has done is that he has generated a mega influence for himself in this arena. And then he's also spins it into his series of books, right? And
I mean, that's so smart.
It's
like ecosystem.
So yeah, that's another thing why I love this arena, right? When I sat back with this arena, I was like, okay, dropping the media network, right? And so right now we have 8 shows rocking and rolling there. Next, right? I decided from there, I just dropped the SWE magazine, the digital magazine, right?
Yeah, we want to know all about that.
I have something else that stay tuned that's dropping. It
Oh my
all
God.
is a
No
layer.
spoiler alert. No, you hear
All
here
a layer
first.
component, right? And it all goes back to that this is not a hobby, this is a business. And so there has to be dollar signs next to all this, right? And therefore finding ways of spinning this particular arena, and how are you going to leverage that so that it's a working business.
Why is it important to, this is exactly the point of this whole show. Why is it important to leverage your personality or the platform or the technology or your influence in business? Can't you just be good? Can't you just be awesome at what you do?
I wish.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, this girl was in the shadows for years. I was making everyone else a star in Hollywood, right?
Well, classic women.
So therefore had none of my own influence. Because your influence is directly linked to your earning power, right?
Damn, that's the quote of the day.
That's not a secret, right? That's a fact. That's an actual fact, right? And so I ask people, so where's your influence today? And they say a 5. And I'm like, and they're like, I want to increase my earning power. I'm like, well, then you got to take it to an 8, right?
What's a scale?
From 1 to a 10, right? 1 to 10. And Hollywood taught me this, right? Hollywood was like you could be the best screenwriter, the best talent, the best director in the world, right? But if you didn't have the influence of a success of some sort, if you didn't have the influence that was backing you, it wasn't going to take you next level. Hey, Ross.
Hey, sorry about that.
Not at all. Welcome back. And we're back. Right now we're asking, Jerry, I'm really kind of going deep into why do we need influence? Why do we have to build a platform? Can't we just be good at what we do? Why isn't that enough? And that's where Joey is right now. One mic drop after another.
All right, so I didn't hear what Joey said, so hopefully I'm not repeating the same things, and some of which I'll probably say I probably learned from Joey. But it's, how do you get discovered? And how are people looking for you? I mean, like, going all the way back to 2014, 2015, when I was working in HR doing recruiting, where did we look for hard to find candidates? We looked on LinkedIn. We did all sorts of LinkedIn searches to find people. Well, now, everybody's on social media. If you don't have a digital presence, if you don't come up in Google, do you exist? That's your showcase. Those top hits that come up in Google, that's where people go and they say, let me learn something about Rebecca or Kathleen or Joey and see if I'd like working with them or not. The old static resume isn't how business is done anymore. It's done through connecting and getting a sense of who the person is. It's like by the time you meet somebody, for example, by the time you go on a date with somebody, right, you already know, there's no such thing as a blind date anymore. You pretty much, what they look like.
You can
what
get to like somebody's real estate records on Facebook in like 3 clicks.
Yeah.
You
without
start to
knowing
tell some
anything about,
story,
like,
and they're like, "Oh yeah, I saw that on your Instagram or whatever." Okay, all right,
Yeah.
for good or for bad.
yeah. So, so it's having that presence and being able to control, to some degree, the top things that come in. So you do all these live stream shows, you do podcasts, you put social out there, and then you take your best stuff and you make sure that it's in places where it can quickly be found. It's your digital portfolio, it's your online resume, it's your professional brand, personal brand, whatever you want to call it. That's, that is your online portfolio, is when you put somebody's name into Google and what comes up in the first 3 or 4 hits. That's where they're going to learn about you. And it doesn't matter, You know, you could have press releases on your website, and you could have stock photos of the team all excited, jumping up like that and all that. Nobody cares about stuff like that anymore because they can just go learn about the real you.
Okay, well, that sounds great on paper, RB, but as somebody who's been doing it for the last year, it's freaking exhausting. How do you manage it? Like with the client lift, and then, you know, I'm live once a week here, I'm live once a week there, and then I'm producing a show, and I'm doing everything I can to boost my influence. So to Joey's point, that I can have control over my own income. How do you guys manage it all? Because it feels like it's my new full-time job sometimes.
Well, you've already got quite the portfolio from doing a produced show, doing live shows. Like, you could, without being very active, you know, make sure your social bios are optimized every so often. Take some highlights from your show and occasionally post them. Put your best couple of minutes on the homepage of your website, and, you know, let that stuff work for you, and then do what you feel like doing when you're inspired. And otherwise, you don't have to do a ton. You know, you can literally, I call it the portfolio method, which is you take what you have and you put it in the best, you arrange it sort of in the best way possible. Again, when somebody finds out about Rebecca and wants to work with her, they're going to Google you, and then what comes up? So you can do that without being constantly active, right? And then you could also, the next level forward would be maybe schedule some posts, and, you know, once a week you post on LinkedIn, once a week you post on Instagram or something, or maybe you don't, and maybe you just have it optimized. Instagram, Twitter, all those places now. Facebook, you can pin posts to the top of your profile.
When you say optimize, Ross, what do you actually mean for folks at home watching the Stone Fruit Roll Up live on YouTube every Thursday at 12 minutes?
You can go to
some,
some social media influencers' Twitter, let's say, and they've got a 2016 tweet pinned to the top. Nothing says current and on top of things like, you know, how to use Blab in 3 easy steps, or, you know, get my tutorial for Periscope.
A new frontier.
So keep something current. Make sure that it's related to what people are looking for you for, what you want people to watch. Or if you do put a new video on your YouTube channel, maybe that should be the pinned post for a while. So optimizing is staying current. It's updating from time to time. It's, you know, it's putting your best foot forward, making sure your bio is telling the story of what you're doing now. And, you know, it's just staying on top of it on an occasional basis so that you never really fall behind, even if you're not creating new content. The bios, the pin posts, all that. And I'm not saying like mine are perfect on every platform or whatever, but, you know, keeping it updated, talking about what you want people to know about you, changing the banner when the banner size changes, all that stuff are things. It's sort of like there's a deep cleaning, you know, when you clean your place, and there's a superficial cleaning when somebody's coming over in an hour, right? At least do the superficial cleaning of your social once in a while. It takes 5 minutes to go to Twitter and go, you know, I'm no longer working on this type of project, or, you know, I left this job, or, you know, my 3 biggest things that I want people to know no longer include my podcast, or it's things like that, right? So, you know, my book is very prominent now in my bios versus maybe talking about the title of every show that I'm doing or what have you, right? So,
thanks, RB. Joey, do you agree? Do you think, or do you feel you have to post prolifically, work prolifically to build a body of work?
No, I think you need to, a happy entrepreneur is a happy business. Okay, so you have to do what's right for you, for your business rhythms, right? It's to Ross's point, you know, for me, social media is a place where I emotionally connect, and it's my coffee house, and that I go into often because I want to say hi to my friends. And it makes me happy. It brings me a lot of joy, right? And so what I do is I pull from my past forward, right? So I have it organized, like, past shows, past press, past um, blogs I've written, articles, whatever. And so I have them sitting there so that I'm not pulling my hair out all the time,
Mm.
so that I'm pulling from what I already have and repurposing it.
Well, you're both an inspiration.
I have
I'm
a question.
Go ahead, Kathleen.
Sorry. So I connected with this lady on Threads, and I don't know if this is a question, but what she did was a complete content dump. She pulled everything and made posts for what her upcoming offers were. And instead of just posting like every 2 days, she just dumped all the content for like 29 posts. And then once that like cycle is done and she's going to start doing something else, she's going to just post something else. Do we think content dumps are a good idea? Or should you be like posting consistently to get more in front of people?
Depends what the strategy is. If she's about to send out an offer or a proposal for somebody and wants them to know what they have, if Threads is the one thing that's on there, I guess. But still, they're going to know that somebody threw it all together at the last minute. I mean, I think you have to be, with things like that, you have to be kind of brief and spread out.
Mhm.
I mean, Threads, you could string together a 29 post thread or whatever, but it doesn't really seem like that's the way for an offer. Maybe that's the way for a thought leadership piece or something. But I wouldn't think that that's probably the best way to go.
Okay, cool. Oh, nice.
We got a plug from the comments from inside the house. The call's coming from inside the house. Joey's book, The Red Carpet Guide, has a great game plan for visibility. Joey, give us the TLDR on your game plan for visibility, and also how long does it take to actually start building that coveted influence and driving those beautiful prices where you want them? Hashtag asking for a friend.
I would say that being organized is your best friend when it comes to social media. So I tell people, I look at it as a curriculum, like a teacher would use your curriculum.
Yeah.
And so I'm not huge into the dumps like that. Instead, I'm really huge into the consistency. And then looking at it like it's your unique point of view and how you get to spread your message and do it in a creative way. That's the way I look at social media too. Social takes a second to build. You're looking at, a minimum of a year or two to really build that trust, know, and like factor out there. But nothing has built my influence faster than the shows. Nothing. Because one show, face recognition, pre-marketing, marketing it, post-marketing, clips, you could just do a show and that could be your whole social media marketing campaign. Just one show. So if someone wants to do that, I would suggest it. Right?
How long does it take to build the kind of influence that makes an impact from scratch? Like, in your opinion, is this to set people's expectations? Like, is this something you have to really do for a year? Is this something you have to do for 2 years? Is this something you have to do for 5 years before you can kind of get to that tipping point?
I think if you started with a show, I wish I could go back in time, and I started with a show, my influence would have been mega faster than what it is today. Then my show has put me and my influence, in my opinion, on a different level, right? the quickest, the fastest. The other thing too, guys, is shows are great, the interview components, because you get to tag the people that are in your show, which means you
Yeah.
get to be in their backyard, and you cannot pay for that kind of marketing. You can't, because I'm in your guys' backyard. You guys have all these people that love on you already, and they're like, well, if they love Joie, maybe I should know, like, and trust her too, right? That's why the interview shows are to me are the fastest way to build influence.
But that's what everybody seems to be doing. So sometimes I feel like it's just kind of, you're more noise. How do you stand out in an interview show? And also some of it, and I don't mean to be rude to anybody who has an interview show. We're here right now interviewing, but sometimes it feels like and it's easier to do that than to create an original content or plan for a show or do some segments. It's kind of safer to always have someone to interview. And so I wonder, is that just like now that's what everybody does, so you no longer stand out, versus your point of how much you can leverage guests? What are your opinions on that, Ross, as well?
I just want to jump in here for 1 second and just say this. You're running with other content creators, so you think everyone has a show.
Ha!
You're running with Ross. You're running with, now we know
he's lapping me.
Do you see what I'm saying? It's like everyone thinks everyone's an author. And I'm like, I said, I could throw a rock. I could go miles away from my home right now and not find an author. It's just, I run with authors. So you think everyone's a speaker, everyone's in the arena. And I don't believe that's true. I actually think that it is a very close-knit, tight arena. That is why at Podfest, there's about 2,000 plus people that show up. That's a lot of people, but that's not hundreds of thousands of people in the arena yet. That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's there, maybe a couple million podcasts out there, but only, I don't know, 200,000 to 400,000 or something are actually putting out an episode this week or this month. So, that sounds like a lot of people, except that, there's just in the US alone, there's 325 million or 350 million people, right? So not everybody's got a podcast, but it feels like it if you hang in creator circles. And, for me, I'm talking a lot about digital media and live streaming. So it's like everybody I'm connected to has a podcast, a Facebook group, a book, all these different things. But it's why you also want to go into other industries and other niches where, it's like you're the only person who's got a podcast, or you're the only person who's doing a show. The thing is, right now, organic reach isn't great on social media and for video shows and things like that. So one of the great things about doing an interview show is you're building relationships with your guests. You have something to offer them, which is a chance to be in the spotlight. Even if it's only a spotlight in front of a small group of people, they still get the star treatment. If you do it right, you kind of roll out, take Joey's term, you roll out the red carpet for them. You make them feel like a star. You give them a chance to be the expert on your show. You set them up, you promote what they're doing, and they come away having a good experience, as well as seeing you operate in what to them may be sort of a stressful medium, right? Running a show and hosting a show and doing all this, and they come away with like, there's a capable person if I ever need somebody who does what you do, or let me introduce you to 5 other people in my network who I know would love to get their books out there. So I think there's value in the interview show, because it's not just about how many people show up or how you can repurpose it, but it's also about that relationship. I mean, like Joey and I got to know each other through an interview and then became friends. So I think there's a power in that. But, there's also remixing things, right? You're doing an interview show, but you've got 4 panels full, and it's a different kind of discussion than, Ross, tell me about your childhood. Ross, tell me about, when you
Is that on the table? Can I ask?
No, absolutely not. Yeah, whatever.
That's
But
how well I know you.
but you know what I mean? Like, this is different. It's more free flowing. You've got a bunch of different people here. Like what we do on Stream Leader Report, where each person
Every
brings
Thursday,
a story.
1:30 p.m.
Yeah, but not today. And so it's not like one host and somebody getting asked questions. It's each person brings their own topic, their own story, and so forth. So there's lots of ways to remix this as well.
I think you're bringing up something that's so important, or at least has been really important for me to learn in my last year journey of becoming a creator, under your influence. Of course, Ross, the great influencer of anybody who wants to tap into this platform building is to decentralize the eyeballs. And what I mean is to stop obsessing over how many eyeballs are on your live. Stop obsessing over, gaining an audience and having anxiety about who's showing up and who's not showing up, and just really concentrate on the guests and creating a great show within the body of work and the experience for them and nurturing that relationship, even if nobody watches. And I believe that's a paradigm shift you really kind of have to go through, because if you're obsessed with the eyeballs, it's so easy to get discouraged.
It's sort of ironic that, like, Joey comes from Hollywood and I come from a radio background. So you'd think we'd be very much like, what are the numbers? What are, and I'm not saying that that's not important or that I'm not frustrated if I look and I see, we have 3 concurrent viewers or something when I'm hosting my show and I'm like, what the heck's going on here or whatever. But I don't focus, like, the other part of coming from doing this stuff on a professional level is, you go out and you do what you do to the best of your ability, and it doesn't really matter. So whether I'm on a show with no viewers or I'm on a show with 1 million viewers, why would I do any less than my best, right? So, and that's the kind of thing. The funny thing is, you see people like doing their first show and going like, what if nobody watches? Like, of the 100 things I was worried about when I was doing my first show, I was hoping nobody would be watching. But the other thing that's crazy is you see people when they get a big spike in audience that maybe to them comes out of nowhere, and then they get nervous and they're like, what am I supposed to do now? I've got all these people like, oh, now I got to become a real professional. Well, you should be doing the best you can do anyway, and you really shouldn't be too focused on who's watching, because you don't know whether it's your guest or there's one person there who's going to take something away, and you don't know how you're going to use it afterwards. You may repurpose something in a way that gets attention, but there's that interesting is an interesting dynamic there between having done this professionally, where yes, things are being measured, but also it's sort of your own pride, your own sense of, this is what I do and this is what it takes to be a professional at this, and then it becomes immaterial. Whether I go, when I was doing, broadcasting, and I would go on other people's shows, it wouldn't matter to me whether I went on the smallest market or a college radio station or I went on a national show. I'm representing myself and I do what I do. And, if what I do isn't good enough, then I should be developing that on a regular basis, not playing it up or playing it down based on the audience. And you just don't know where that clip's going to come from that you're going to use as part of your portfolio. But it's also just about your integrity and who you are. So I think, don't worry about the numbers. It's the quality of what you're putting out there over time that builds your portfolio.
Can I say something, Rebecca?
Of course.
Okay, I just don't want to I don't know too much about visibility. I don't have very many platforms or anything, but I obviously 100% believe what you're saying, Ross. I read the other day that it took Mr. Beast over 4 years to get 4,000 subscribers, and then it took off by accident.
I
So like
couldn't
you never
believe that.
know.
I couldn't believe. I
Yeah,
read the same
4
thing.
years.
Yeah.
So like it doesn't matter. It might take you 4 years to get past 4,000 subscribers, but you don't know. And work with integrity and work your best to your abilities, like when no one's watching. What's that saying?
Dance like no one's watching.
Yeah, or like you can tell by someone's character by like how they behave like behind doors or something.
Mhm.
You know what I'm trying to say? And I think like showing up in your business like that all the time really makes a difference, because eventually someone will see it, it will catch on, and people will be like, oh, I really love this.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah,
Ross,
it takes a minute to find the people that resonate with you.
Mm-hmm.
It's just building a body of work.
Yeah.
It's the same thing in Hollywood. It's people that are superstars weren't superstars overnight. They had to start somewhere, right? Maybe you saw them in a little video or a commercial, right? They're just building their body of work, right?
Yeah.
And they're building their relationships. And the relationships are key first.
Joey, is there ever a time where you would advise somebody to quit? Like, this isn't working out.
I think if someone is really unhappy, it's just causing them so much angst, they're not enjoying it. I'm like, maybe don't quit, but take a break, right?
Mhm.
I'm not a huge fan of people taking breaks, because I'm like, then you got to get the buzz up and the influence again. You're kind of starting over, right? However, if people are unhappy, right, then this just might not be the right arena for you. There's a ton of other arenas. I mean, I'm an author, I'm an inner speaker, right? I'm a consultant. I have a lot of different hats that I wear, but everything goes back to my purpose first. And my purpose is to help particularly entrepreneurs gain visibility and influence, and to get from behind the curtains and step into their own spotlight, right? Because I believe it's truly is literally your birthright to do that. Literally your birthright, right? And so that's what drives me every day. Is every day a circus? No. There are days where I was like, I will burn this to the ground. I would light a match and I would burn this whole thing to the ground.
But at least it's your privilege and prerogative to do so.
Right.
As to your point of when you started, like, I don't have to ask anybody's permission whether I build this platform or I burn it down. I can make choices for myself, and I know that that those choices work out better when I have more visibility. When you say something really powerful that I'd never heard before, and I'd love to hear you expound on it a little bit for our audience at home and in the comments. Shout out to Paul and Drew, who are Ross fans and now Joey fans, I'm sure, and Kathleen fans, and also me. What you say is you've got to have your face in the room. People need facial recognition, which is kind of a little bit of a different spin than just like show up as your authentic self and then people will trust you. Can you say a little more about that?
Yeah, I mean, face recognition is huge, right? That's why media does so well. That's why I like video podcasting. And nothing against the audio component, because I certainly have that too, rock and rolling for the network. But video is great. I tell people all the time, I said, there will be a time, if you're consistent, if you're digging this, if you're sharing from like having some fun with this, right? That you'll walk into a room and someone will literally walk up to you and be like, I know you. And they feel like they've emotionally connected with you and you don't know them.
Like a parasocial relationship dynamic?
Yes, that's okay, because they've been following you. They become, I call it brand evangelist, right? And when people start recognizing you in the room, that takes your influence to a completely next level, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. That's what I'm telling people. That's why I love the audio component. I'm like, but if you're going to do the audio and you feel and you're willing to jump off a cliff, because it does take a minute to watch yourself all the time on a big screen, right? Every day when you turn on your YouTube channel, right? It takes courage. It takes courage, right? But at the same time, I was just like, it's so worth it. It's so worth it, because down the road, You're going to be somewhere and someone's going to recognize you and you're going to be like, see, it's working.
Ross, when was the first time somebody recognized you that you didn't know in this parasocial dynamic?
Wow. Probably at Summit Live. That was like the first big conference that I went to where I was speaking. And I was around people, and there were definitely people that came up and said hi. That didn't know them, but they were watching me, and that was pretty cool, actually.
At what point, and at that point, at that kind of turning point, can you recall any up level in your career or your ability to work with, like, high end projects? Could you make a direct correlation between, like, well, this was just about the time somebody came up to me on the conference floor that I didn't know, that I was able to get clients that I'd never gotten before. I was able to get guests that I'd never gotten before. Or is it more of a just kind of an organic 2 steps forward, 1 step back? What can people expect? When can people expect that influence to kick in, I guess is the question.
So I started live streaming on Blab in late 2015. And Summit Live was early 2017, by which time I'd done the predictions a couple of years, and things were starting to, the guest lineup was really good and all that. But that summer of 2017, I took a break for like 6 weeks. I think I maybe did 1 show, but basically got off social media, or just used social media, just to... I had another Twitter account that wasn't my professional one, right? Maybe I just, consumed a little bit from that account or whatever. But I pretty much put the phone down, put this down, was like, I need a break from this, whatever. And I wasn't even sure if I wanted to pick it up again. And of course, I got the hunger for it after a couple months. But that's when things took off. That's when things really took off for me. After I did have a client that summer where I worked on a project during that time, but that wasn't video and it wasn't online. I mean, it was online, but it wasn't me as the creator, right? So I focused on that client project. I did other things. And when I came back refreshed, and I was like, okay, I'm committed to this. Let's go. And that's when, I got the show on Be Live, and I started live stream deals and a whole bunch of different things, new clients, and the whole thing. So I'm, like Joey said, obviously consistency and everything's important, but sometimes you need to take a break. Mm-hmm. And if you've done the work to build an audience and you step away for a month or two, that audience, first of all, because there's so much activity going on online, half the people don't even notice. Right?
They're not going to be like, man, I showed up at 12 noon for the stone fruit roll-up, and there wasn't anybody there.
And the other people who do notice will be thrilled that you came back and, you're launching something new and whatever. But if you come back energized like that, it does make a difference. And I think Joey hit the nail on the head. If you're not enjoying it, why continue with it? Because there are so many different ways. And the other thing is to know yourself. I mean, the shame of it is there are people who aren't very good at doing interview shows and don't enjoy it, but would be completely awesome if they just took their phone, put on a headset, and went for a walk every day and talked about what they're up to or what happened in their business or, the movie that they saw last night or whatever, and could probably build a bigger audience that way, but also enjoy themselves and do it in a way that's organic to their own life. And I think all of us have to consider, like, do we get out of the studio once in a while and show a different look, or go to a different place, or, I wrote in my newsletter this week about interviewing in person. The big podcasts, they bring people in, they fly them in, they put them up in a hotel, they have a big studio that they're renting or that they've built, and there's that in-person chemistry that's kind of special about it, and it makes the podcast feel like a big deal. Well, how do we create that without the budget? we go to things in our town, in our city, and set up interviews in person and sit down with the camera, your phone, a little microphone, and actually do a one-on-one with the person, or do it in their place of work, or their, before they speak at a conference or after they speak. Do it in the hallway, wherever you get like a different activity and environment. That gives your show and makes your show feel bigger, and it makes it feel more personal, and there's a different chemistry when you're with the person. So I think there's a lot of things that people can do to spice things up and give it a new energy that it may not have if they've been doing it for a while and they feel like, well, this is a little tedious or whatever. Reinvent it, or dig into what your strengths are and then go do something that's a better fit. And it could be like, I'm loving doing a LinkedIn newsletter every week. It could be, that's your, blogging, newsletters. It could be email marketing. It could be, voice instead of video, or what have you. There's so many different ways to make an impact. It doesn't have to be live streaming and video shows.
Yeah.
You love the man on the street stuff, Ross.
I do.
Joey, let me ask you a question, darling. If you had a magic wand and could do anything for the superstar women entrepreneur in your life, what would you give them with a magic wand?
The courage to show up. Because it takes courage. It takes courage to do this. It takes courage to build your influence. And I tell the content creators, the sisters all the time, I say, listen, I said, when your influence grows, it's the same as being popular. Okay. And you have to have a muscle for this. Okay. Of course, the great hope is everyone knows your name, right? In theory. Okay. And then make it a reality, right? You've got to have a muscle to be able to sustain and receive all that love, because it's really love, right? And I talk a lot about this in my second book, Being Your Own Superstar. And so I tell people, I said, do your daily practices, whatever that is. It doesn't matter what it is. Set yourself up for success that way, because as more success comes rolling down the hill towards you, you really have to be able to sustain it and be able to allow it. It does take courage. And then you're going to be encouraged to go to the next level. And that takes a whole new set of disciplines to go next level influence, right? So
what is the next level? What is the next level for you?
The next level is really around the digital magazine component. The stay tuned, what's going to be dropping next for the media network is to build out the SWE media network so that there's multiple layers of content that you can consume differently, but it all goes back to the same source, right? And that there's a working business model behind the network itself. So that's where.
How can we support you? How can I support you in that endeavor?
And that Hollywood, which isn't necessarily Hollywood anymore, it comes a knocking.
How can fans of Joey G113 support you in that endeavor?
Oh, I encourage people to go check out the shows. Every show has a minimum of 4 solutions in it, tangible walkaways. So whether it's about business, influence, wealth, health, marketing, branding, right? Every single show has tangibles that we've indoctrinated in each show so that it is e-learning, but being entertained simultaneously.
I call that edutainment. RB, same question. What are you going to do with your magic wand?
I'm always sort of gauging what's going on in the environment or the live stream universe and figuring out where the next thing is. I'm going to start doing more stuff out, like I was saying before. I'm going to start doing more stuff outside the home studio, more local stuff. I think also something we hadn't talked about and something that I need to put more time into, I think, is community. And it's again, with organic reach not being great for live streams and notifications only reaching a certain percentage of people, Drew mentioned this in his comment about, getting more views and all that. I think a big part of it is, where do you send people who come to watch your show so that they can stay in touch, and then they can continue having a conversation with you and other people in your community, and then also get notifications. If you get them into a platform, I know some people use locals as an option. Every time they post something or something, there's a good discussion in the group or whatever, I get an email about it. Now, it's true that I sent my Facebook emails to an address that I never look at, but still, I know that I'm rarely notified when somebody posts in a Facebook group. There's just too much going on. Facebook isn't prioritizing it that much. So if you can have that community, you have an email list, all those things are other ways to stay engaged with people who are really looking for the information and the access and the ability to provide. And then how do you monetize that, or how does that help you as far as getting people interested in what your next endeavor is and your next endeavor. But I think having that community and having a place where, instead of thinking I'm doing this show for the entire world, you're thinking about, how can I best serve those people who want to be a part of what this is all about? What are you about? What is your content about? And then how do I serve the people who are interested in that in the best way that I can? And what that solution is and how that's going to look and all that, I don't know exactly. But I think in the past, our framework was, you build yourself up on social, you do your shows for a few years, and then when you have a following of a certain size, you think about starting a Facebook group or something like that. I now advise my clients, start with community from day one. Like, that's where the opportunity is. And that's who your shows and your content should first and foremost be appealing to. Have a place where somebody shows up for episode 1 and you can move them, hey, join our group, join our community, and never miss a show or a discussion, or, I'll be going live once a week in the community. I don't know how it all structures for everybody and what the right thing is, but I know that that's an important component right now, and it's being overlooked too much, and I haven't done enough with it either. So,
well, we look forward to supporting you in whatever community you have.
Thank you.
And for folks who are interested in the Stone Fruit community, Intergalactic Intern Saturn launched a Discord last week on the roll-up. So if you're interested in being part of this, the tiny little seeds that were just planted for the Stone Fruit community, Kathleen was there to support Saturn as that ambitious 16-year-old launched a Discord group for us. So I think that was pretty cool. Joey, working? Yes? Question mark. I need to, what I really need to do is set up a unique URL for it. And I have, between you, me, and the ring light, I have so many URLs of like Stone Fruit Stand, Stone Fruit Snacks, Stone Fruit Juice, Stone Fruit blah blah, Stone Fruit that. So it should be easy for me to do that. So ask me that question next time, Ross. We'll put it in the show notes.
Come back to the video. Come back to the video. Make it the first. Put it in. Make a comment with the link, and then pin it as the first comment.
Yeah. Oh my God. See, I'm learning something from you every day. Ross, where can people find you in the universe, or where would you like to send them?
Livestreamuniverse.com is the website, and the YouTube channel is also Livestream Universe.
Fabulous. Joey, where would you like people to come and see you, my darling?
I would love for them to come see SWE Media Network on YouTube. And then I have a Facebook group. It's called Superstar Women Entrepreneurs. You can join that and spotlight yourself in there. That's why
We'll make sure they get into the show notes. Kathleen, before we sign off, did you have a magic wand you wanted to wave for your clients who are building visibility? I didn't actually ask you the magic wand question.
That's okay, Rebecca. I think my magic wand for my clients would just to have the confidence in themselves to make good decisions.
Awesome.
That is a beautiful magic wand.
Thanks.
My magic wand is for people to like and subscribe, ?
There you go. Hit that notification bell.
Yeah, ding, ding,
So
ding.
you never miss an episode.
So you never miss an episode. Every Thursday, 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. Next Thursday, we have the lovely and delightful Taylor Campia because it's our annual 420 celebration. High holy days. So join us for that, or check us out last year where we did it on location, and that was hilarious. I can't thank you enough, Joey and Ross, for showing up and showing off your awesomeness. It has been a thrill to get to know both of you on this kind of deeper level, and also to participate in a wider conversation rather than just one-on-one. And I know we have to have some sort of Podfest moment next year because I'm committed to going. As y'all said, that's the thing to do. For sure. So thank you to folks who showed up in the comments, Drew, and also my good man PK, who was on one of those very rocky first episodes of the show, and hopefully we'll come back and see you soon. Kathleen, my affable co-host, and all our friends and fruitsters, thanks for joining us, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye, French fries.